Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franzen here, co-host of the Top Business Leaders Show, where we feature CEOs, entrepreneurs, and top leaders in the business world. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses reach their dream relationships and connect with more clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships and get ROI through Done For You podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships, there's no better way to do it than to profile the people and companies you admire on your podcast. To learn more, go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25media.com. Ben LeDonni is founder and CEO of Creative Multimedia Solutions, a leading strategic digital marketing agency based in Philadelphia. He has built and leads a team of 17 data development, design, marketing, and techie geeks like him that work together to deliver effective digital marketing results for their clients. He's also working on his next venture, which will launch very soon. Ben, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Chad, thanks for having me, man.
Hey, so tell me a little bit more about Creative Multimedia Solutions and what you guys do.
Yeah, sure, man. So we work with mostly business-to-business companies that are already established and looking to grow, and we do that through building trust, authoritativeness, and expertise with their audience online. So a lot of that is nailing down and pinpointing their target audience and the customer journey that target audience is seeking online, and then we make sure that the entire journey looks the part so that they can help convert potentially more leads, attract. Right now, it's a lot of times it's attract more talent because hiring is really big and top of mind, and making sure that the overall digital presence kind of rises the tide and lifts and helps grow the organization.
I'm sure most people know this, but can you tell me just kind of like what does digital marketing involve? I talked about development and design. What does that involve?
Yeah, so I mean, to me, it's you probably get 30 different answers from 30 different agency owners because everybody has a different flavor of it. But if you really think of the core underpinnings of marketing, there's knowing the audience and making sure that your brand is aligned with the audience, from the mission of the brand all the way through to, what the services are that you provide, as well as the full cycle of the customer experience and everything in between. And so digital marketing really takes it from the old school methodologies of sending print pieces in the mail, or even like magazine advertising, billboard advertising, things that we would consider static or print, and looking at everything other than that, the things that are digital in nature, that have data oriented, that are measurable, and so on. So really, it's imagine that there's a layer of that brand stuff all the way through to customer journey, and everything in between that happens on the digital forefront from the consumer standpoint is really just looks the part, acts the part, says what it needs to, educates the clients as it needs to, and make sure that the experience is on par.
So how does data drive it?
It's everything. I mean, if we look at each piece of the puzzle as being like, for example, if you have a sales team and a marketing team and you're a business-to-business company, your sales team is responsible for hitting key metrics in terms of revenue and targets. Your marketing team might be responsible for some generating leads and making sure that the lead volume is up through the marketing efforts with a nice return on investment. Everything I just labeled there were three main KPIs, right? There was revenue, that was a big part for the sales team. There was the number of leads that come through from the marketing team. And then there was the dollar amount return on investment. So that's data that most businesses are measuring from a sales and marketing perspective. And what we do is take another layer down from that data and say, what are the other data points that matter to try and get those dials turned up properly? So things like traffic to the website, if it's website oriented, that you're trying to get leads through there, ads that serve up in Google, or nowadays a lot of LinkedIn, social media, stuff like that. The eyeballs plus the conversion ends up equaling a lot of the leads and the lead volume. And so those measurements become important. And there's a lot more to that too. Things like just pure SEO data around what keywords are driving the biggest organic results, and what are we known for as a brand in the industry when you're talking about competing with other companies like you.
How difficult was it to learn? I mean, I'm sure a lot of those things are difficult for most people to learn, but how difficult was it to learn kind of those marketing principles like SEO and things like that? Did that just kind of fall right in line to what you'd already been doing?
Well, for me, it's easy because I'm a geek and I love it. I mean, to me, I just, I'm living and breathing it. I've got books on it that I like to read. I stay up to date. I use Google as kind of like as I'm searching for things and integrate reading more and engaging more. Google sends me articles that are like that. So there's always something new that's coming into the feed. So it's not that complex to me, but ultimately, it may be complex to, like, let's say a CEO that's been doing things a long time. Maybe it's been sales meetings face to face, and now they're trying to shift towards digital and don't really have a good understanding. Or a lot of times we also hear that there's, maybe they've tried SEO in the past and worked with a company that truly didn't know what they were doing, and then the value didn't really go up, and so they've abandoned it and see it as voodoo magic that doesn't really work. So there's a lot of those in betweens that are truly challenges for people to get a grasp of. But I'm very data oriented in it. And so really what I think of it is the way that I said it before, where you have sales numbers and marketing numbers, and you try and identify the objectives and those key results to get to those numbers. And each of those key results have data points to be able to get there.
What did you do prior to launching Creative Multimedia Solutions?
I was a developer. I actually went to Villanova for a computer science degree and stayed there for a master's degree. And then went out and worked for Lockheed Martin as a web software developer for them for a couple of years. I was the chief software architect of a small company that was building web applications, and learned all of the underpinnings all the way from server database all the way up to design, development, project management, and all of that. And I had started Creative alongside that, and built it up, hiring people that are better than me at all the things that needed to be done. So that's why I have a very geeky and technical approach towards things, because I'm a logical thinker, and I really feel like if a website or campaign isn't built on data and good, solid technical foundation, then it's not really going to drive as many results.
So you said you launched it while working concurrently elsewhere. How did you how did you come up with the idea, and how did you kind of get it off the ground?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to date myself here, but I was always a big fan of those AOL profiles and, messing with the colors on AOL. And then when I was in college, I was big into, creating HTML websites and using stuff like Dreamweaver and things like that. So I kind of have always stayed with it through there. Got into it because at the time I was graduating Villanova was 2002. And there were a lot of small businesses that were just trying to get online at the time. And they were like trying to figure out how to build a website and buy a domain from one place, stitch it together with hosting from somewhere else, and then build the website that could communicate. So I had friends and family that were reaching out to me because I was comp sci. I already always loved the design and user experience aspects of building websites, already knew how to do it. And so it was a passion project for me that turned into a business. So I'm really lucky.
What were the early days like?
Oh, man. A lot of hustle, still is a lot of hustle. I think just part of me is like, I don't stop. So I like to keep moving. But, early days, there's a lot to answer in that. Early days of running the business was learning about, things like profit and loss and, all the key metrics that you need to run a business. Most entrepreneurs start a business because they're passionate about doing something, but then they need to gravitate into becoming a CEO, a business owner, a leader. And that might not be just something that they were trained in. So those early days were the start of that ramp. And, I'm still on that trajectory to continue to get better and better at being a business leader, as an owner of a company, a team leader, a founder. But, I think back to those individual pain points to get me along the way. And that's what the early days really resembles to me.
As you mentioned, you hire people who you say are smarter than you. What are the challenges? I mean, that's great if you guys can all work together as a team, but what are the challenges to kind of, for lack of a better word, managing or leading, people who are probably all brilliant in their skill set?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things to that. There's a theory out there on hiring smart creatives, which is kind of just like the meshing of the creative side and the logical side of your brain. I think it's Google who says that, hire smart creatives all the time. But I think it starts before that with hiring based on culture fit and core values of the company. This is, again, on that trajectory of learning things. I've done things the hard way and started to realize that, you really want to hire people that exude the same values that you're trying to uphold as a company, because a company is a team of people. And if those people uphold those same values, then the company will reflect that and resemble it. And so we now hire first based on culture. based on is this person a good fit to the team? Will they jive with others? Do they resemble the values that we already want to portray to our clients and to our partners and friends and family? And then from there, it's, are they smart creatives? Are they always learning? Or do they know what they need to come into the job? I mean, I'd way rather hire somebody that doesn't necessarily have all of the skill set, but is it always be learning type of person with the right culture fit and the right personality fit, than hire somebody that knows it all already and will tell everybody they know it all and not fit the values that we have in terms of being a good team.
What are some of the values that you look for?
Well, so first and foremost is, team culture, the fact that they will get along with others, that they seek to understand before being understood. It's a really big one for us. We have quotes up on our wall, and one of them is that it takes an orchestra to whistle a symphony. So, you've got really a whole bunch of people that are trying to work together. And if one person is the know-it-all, that breaks down a lot of silos that you don't want, or I'm sorry, I should say it breaks down a lot of the communication, creating silos that you don't want. So those are some of the big ones. We do, like I said, always be learning is huge for us. This industry in and of itself is super fast paced. We talk about Web 3.0 as a new term that's out there. Didn't even exist a year and a half ago. And, so we're always immersed in what's coming up and what's going on, and even mobile. We have a conversation this afternoon educating a client on the index split between mobile and standard devices, and why they really need to be thinking about mobile devices as its own thing to think about. And it's just constant in terms of learning and educating. Patience is important too. I think we are big educators for our clients, and we're not the agency that's just going to take on a client that has to know it all already and say, oh, they don't know this, so we can't work with them. So that patience and education and believing that we will take the time to educate clients is important too.
Is it difficult to kind of stay ahead of, like Web 3.0? As somebody like me, I'd probably hear about it like 3 months after it existed. Is it difficult for you guys to stay ahead of that? Or, are you guys just so into that world and you'd probably do that even if it wasn't your job?
I'm doing it even though it's inherently built into just what we're passionate about. I mean, when given the choice between reading anything, I'm going to pick that, like, what is the newest, geekiest, coolest thing that's out there? And so I think, again, going back to that hire based on culture and values fit, if we hire people that are exuding that value of always be learning and looking at that latest geeky thing and creating a home for them to share it, which is also important. Our Slack channels are filled with the geekiest things that probably some people would not really want to or care to see, but we love it. And we get behind it and then learn it and be able to apply it for clients when it's relevant.
What would you say are some of the biggest turning points or milestones that you're particularly proud of since you launched Creative?
Oh, there's a lot to that. I mean, there were a lot of them. I would say probably the biggest turning points were also the biggest challenges. So, at one point in our office, we had a fire, and it put us basically looking back for a WeWork type space. And the culture of the team really fell apart because we weren't getting together as much. We lost 6 out of probably 18 people on the team. Maybe it was even less. I think it might have been like 12 on the team at the time. And it really forced us to rethink where we wanted to go from there. It was a time period in the business too, where I was just like, this is really hard. Do I want to stick with this, or do I want to give up at this point? And luckily I have a very supportive wife who said at the time, you didn't come this far to only come this far. These are learning opportunities, and the growth mindset that we have with my wife and I and our kids just applies to business and work as well. And that was a really big turning point. And what it did is it allows us to focus on not just being a web design development agency, which we were mostly at the time, to being more of a marketing and a return on investment strategic company from a marketing perspective. And when we align that with the fact that digital marketing and digital strategy was a really important piece, it really helped us catapult to the next level in great ways. And so in many ways, it was a shedding of the skin, or it was kind of 2 steps back to take 10 steps forward type of thing, which at the time, I didn't think it was going to be a good thing. It was scary, but now that I look back on it, that was a pretty pivotal turning point.
Wow, that's a good story. Can you tell me about a client who came to you and maybe tell me what you did for them and how it helped?
Yeah, I mean, I won't give the specifics of the client
Sure.
and what they do, but we had a client that does something very unique. That's the first one that comes to mind. they do something really unique. And they came to us saying, we don't really have a great digital presence. We haven't ever looked at the data behind what we're doing and what's working and what's not. They were a sizable organization. They weren't huge, but they weren't tiny, probably, somewhere in the like 200, 300 million space. And they were like really trying to take it to the next level by leveling up the digital marketing aspect of things. And what we did is we took a look at where they were at the time. I mean, a lot of what we do is try and build out a map and a roadmap for where somebody currently is and where they want to go. And we did an assessment of their keywords, the campaigns that they were running. We understood everything about their target audience. We did personas and customer journeys, meaning we started mapping when they have conversations with prospects. What are those prospects' top questions? What do they ask? Where is their content that they go to look for it? What needs to be on their website to be able to answer those questions? And not just from when they're a prospect, but all the way through to when they're closing a deal. And we made sure that we redesigned the website, which it took us a little bit. We worked on their new website for 4 to 6 months while we even worked on their web campaigns and digital marketing campaigns to learn and apply that to the website. So we had these parallel paths going on, learned as much as we could from the ad campaigns that we're running, and rebuilt the website with all the customer journey and the insights that we got from the data to a point where we knew the content we were going to put up there was going to resonate with the audience. We just had done all the homework. We put everything out there. Within 6 weeks of launching the site, their SEO traffic increased by like 50%. I mean, they just were getting a lot more organic inbound. The engagement on the site went up tremendously. Bounce rate was lower. The time on site, number of pages that people visited was a lot higher. And as a result, they were just doing better as a business. I mean, if you rise all of those numbers, not only does your inbound lead volume go up, but inherently all those conversations that they were having with prospects are also helped. So it doesn't just help marketing, it helps sales, it helps customer experience. And they were really happy. And we worked with them for a couple of years to continue to build out campaigns and work with them. And, it's probably a good success story. It happens to a lot of agencies like us, but they ultimately hired a lot of people on their team and built an agency inside their company that works with them now day in and day out, and we help them get there. I feel like so it's a good case study, although we don't still work with them now.
Okay, yeah, well, very nice, very nice. Hey, I mentioned in your intro that you're working on your next venture. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so I mentioned the Web 3.0 thing. If Web 1.0 was people were putting out content online, and it was just very like, the company puts the content out, it's out there, people can see it. Web 2.0 was user-generated content, and there's a little bit of a back and forth. And Web 3.0 right now is all about, these coins and cryptocurrency, but mostly about blockchain and the ability for people to demonstrate ownership on blockchain with some of the relationships that they have with brands or companies. And so I'm working on a project right now where we're building a white label marketplace for NFTs and smart contracts, not just NFTs, but for basically brands or companies that are trying to get online, put their content up on blockchain or contracts or images or whatever it is in a way where they can engage with their audience, and the content that they put up there is blockchained and sold to people. Maybe there's royalty kickbacks, maybe there's longevity between those smart contracts and the consumer. But basically bridging that gap and making it really easy for brands to get onto blockchain, being able to sell products directly to their consumers. Really, really hot right now. It's also, in my mind, an extremely game-changing technology to take ownership away from centralized organizations and allow a technology to do it. And so I really believe that a lot of brands should be jumping on the bandwagon to blockchain things that could be centralized and now should be decentralized.
Very cool. What are a few of your kind of like daily rituals? What's a typical day for you?
Oh man, I love it. So actually starts with the week. My Monday, basically I start with a Monday morning. Sometimes it starts on Sunday night, but what are my key rocks that I want to get done with this week? So my boulders, my rocks, my pebbles. What am I trying to do at the end of this week? I love the quote, Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind. So I look at the end of the week and say, what am I going to be happy with getting done this week? And I write that down first and foremost as my boulder. Really, those are my rocks. My boulders are the longer, bigger picture things that I need to make sure I'm still working on and keeping my eyes on. But that sets me up with the top priority items for the week. And then every day it cascades into the daily, wake up, go to the gym, work out, go for a walk, whatever it is to stay active. And once I get online, I have my action plan and my things that I need to do. I do spend a lot of time with my kids. So the night routine these days is driving kids to and from sports, which is a pretty common occurrence for people with kids my age. I have 11-year-olds and a 9-year-old. And so that's a lot of the routine as well.
I have one more question for you, but first, how can people find out more about Creative Multimedia Solutions and your next venture if you're ready to share that? But how can people find out more info?
Yeah, so first and foremost would be go to creativemms.com. That's creative, M as in Mary, S as in Sam.com. We have a lot of great content out there. One of the things that we do for our clients is put up resource libraries on websites, and we have a great resource library, which we call Creative University. There's a lot of good content about marketing and what we've done and white papers and downloads and things like that up there. The new venture is called Deployment, like if you wanted to deploy the ability to mint items on blockchain. So deployment.com is up. It's a work in progress. We're just launching. We really have not even launched our first marketplace, but it should be coming within the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Final question. Are there any books or podcasts that you have found particularly valuable or enjoyable?
Well, so there's a couple. I mean, I love Rocket Fuel, and as that pertains to Traction, which is kind of EOS or Entrepreneur's Operating System. So Traction as a methodology for running a business is great. We don't run the business on EOS, so that's not really like the be all and end all. But that one comes to mind because I'm reading it, and it's part of what I'm really studying in terms of applying some of the EOS methodologies that we do want to apply. So I do like that one. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. I'm sure a lot of people mentioned that one, but that's a really good one, especially because as you're building a team with culture, his number one, claim to fame is right button, right seats with the culture that fits. And I explained to you a lot about how I feel about that. And so that's a really good one too.
Okay. Hey, Ben, it's been great to talk to you, and it's been great hearing your stories and your insights. Thank you so much, and best of luck in the future.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate you having me.
So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.